Thank you. Let us start the way PNM, we always start any event that we have with a word of prayer. Okay, let us bow our heads and close our eyes. Almighty and ever-wise God, we give you praise and we give you thanks. We give you honor and we give you glory. Father God, as we gather here today, Father God, you know the reason and the purpose, dear God. As we gear up for our internal election, Father God, we pray for your blessings, dear God. We pray that you will bind us together with love and peace, because we have to live together after this. So, Father God, help us to be respectful. Help us to conduct ourselves in a mannerly fashion. Father God, all to your honor and your glory, in order, because you are a man of order. Father God, we ask for a blessing on our Prime Minister, our members of Cabinet, all those that offer themselves, Lord, we pray for them and we ask you to bless them. Some will win and some will lose. But at the end, we are all members of this great party, the People's National Movement. Father God, and with you, there is no loser in you. When we stand in Christ, there is no loser when we stand in Christ. And we ask for your continued blessing, your continued guidance, your continued protection on this great party, the People's National Movement. And we ask this in no other name, but your almighty name, Jesus. Amen and amen. Please be seated. National. For from the love of liberty in the files of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land, we pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race finds an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race finds an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Thank you. Please be seated. My task here this evening is very simple and will be very short, to welcome you to Diego Martin. Diego Martin, we are in the constituency of Diego Martin Central, the electoral district of Diamond Vale. And we in Diego Martin have a very rich culture, and we feel very proud to be in Diego Martin, because Diego Martin have some of the most prime real estate in the country. And I thank you for coming out today in your numbers. Diego Martin, we have the best, you could get the best bacon shark in Diego Martin. You could get the best fish broth in Diego Martin. I'm tempted to say Chinese food, but my husband stopped cooking, so I wouldn't bother to go there. But you could get the best food and everything you could think about. This place where you could get Blue Devils, Moko Jambi, all these things. But you could find that in no other place but Diego Martin. Today, I want to welcome you to Diego Martin as we kick off our internal election. And as I pray, and I pray before, I ask that we respect each other, because the PNM is a party where we respect each other. And when we have in the elections, it makes it no different. People will offer themselves, and we have to respect that. And when people offer themselves, they are entitled to offer themselves for any position that they want to offer themselves to. It's a democratic process, it's a democratic party, and it's expected that people will aspire for higher office, and nothing is wrong with that. But some people, some will win and some will lose. But at the end of the day, you could always walk with your head high, because you offer yourself for office in the People's National Movement. So today, I want to thank you all very much for coming out in your large numbers, and we look forward to very interesting evenings. We'll get to know our candidates who offer themselves, and we want to ask God to watch over them and guide them through this process. Once again, thank you very much, and may God richly bless you all.
Thank you very kindly, Chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. We are here on the second leg of the launch of the campaign for these internal elections for the Red and Rowley team. Ladies and gentlemen, on January 24, 1956, the People's National Movement issued its clarion call in the People's Charter for a national consensus, with the establishment of a mass party open to all classes. And our political leader then and founder said, and I quote, "Nor are we an ordinary party in the accepted narrow sense of the word. We are rather a rally, a convention of all and for all, a mobilization of all the forces in the community, cutting across race and religion, class and color, with emphasis on united action by all the people in the common sense." He was careful to also say in that charter, and I quote, "We are not another of the transitory and artificial combinations to which you have grown accustomed to in election years, or another bandwagon of dissident and disappointed politicians, each out to merely get a seat in the legislature." And ladies and gentlemen, that is what the People's National Movement is all about. Not an ordinary party. And that is why I wish to thank you all for coming out this afternoon for this gathering of some of the best and brightest that the PNM has to offer as we go into our internal election on the 30th of September. Any democratically elected government must continue to demonstrate to the national community that it can, in its own internal operations, aspire to the highest ideals of democracy as well. The PNM, unlike other political entities, has consistently demonstrated its adherence to these ideals by conducting its own internal party elections. And ladies and gentlemen, it was in the year 2014 that this party determined that we should move from a system of the delegate election to the one man, one vote. And one thing that I want to draw to your attention is that at that time, the political leader, Dr. Rowley, had been elected for 5 years through the delegate system. And in 2014, a year before he was supposed to be re-elected, he gave up that and allowed the party to determine that we would move to a new system. One man, one vote. It was a totally new development for the PNM. And almost to a man, the delegates voted themselves out of office and determined that the party should go to the one man, one vote. And that is the sign of a great party and of a great leader, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, our foundation aims and objectives in our constitution say that the PNM is a political organization pledged to the maintenance of the rule of law, founded upon democratic principles, basic human rights and dignity, and dedicated to the raising of the moral and material standards of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and the promotion of their progress in all fields: political, economic, social, and cultural. And in 2014, ladies and gentlemen, we demonstrated how important that was for this party. And I want to say to you that this election is of extreme importance, because the team that you elect on this occasion will take us through the next 2 years to the general election in 2020. And I want to remind you that after God, after your family, is your party. You all agree with me? Yes. After God, after your family, then is your party, the People's National Movement. And so, the people that you elect in this election must be persons who can take this party forward, persons in whom you have confidence. And unlike what has happened previously, on this occasion, the political leader decided to mount a slate. And his slate consists of political leader, Dr. Keith Rowley; Chairman, Mr. Colum Imbert; Vice Chairman, Mr. Robert Lehunt; Lady Vice Chairman, Mrs. Camille Robinson-Regis; General Secretary, Mr. Foster Cummings; Assistant General Secretary, Mr. Daniel Dookie; Treasurer, Mr. Howard Chinley; Education Officer, Mr. Overrun Padmore; Public Relations Officer, Mrs. Laurel Lazama Leasing; Social Media Officer, Mr. Avinash Singh; Labor Relations Officer, Mrs. Jennifer Batiste Primus; Elections Officer, Mr. Indar Parasram; Field Officer, Mr. Abdan Mason; Welfare Officer, Mrs. Jocelyn Bodden; Youth Officer, Mr. Ndale Young; Operations Officer, Ms. Irene Hines. I have listed the names of people who are ready to take this party forward. We have determined that when in 2014 our political leader said that there are 6 principles upon which we as a party must move this country forward, that the team that was elected at that time has taken the party to this point. Some of the members of that team remain on this slate, and we have some changes. But these were the 6 principles: morality in public affairs, personal responsibility, generosity, being our brother's keeper and our environment's protector, equity, productivity, and subsidiarity. Ladies and gentlemen, yours is the responsibility to ensure that the persons that you elect want this party to do well, that the persons that you elect have the confidence that you can repose in them to take this party forward. And as we move along today, we will hear why our political leader chose these 16 people to be his slate. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by indicating that each member who is contesting will be allowed to speak today for 3 minutes. And I say contesting because in the Code of Conduct, there are some members who are already elected. The Code of Conduct is very clear. It says, and each one of us signed on to the Code of Conduct when we became nominees. The Code of Conduct is very clear. It says, where there is only one candidate contesting for an office, that candidate shall be declared the winner at the end of the nomination period. And ladies and gentlemen, we already have winners on our slate. Our persons who have already elected are the political leader, Dr. Keith Rowley. Our treasurer, Mr. Howard Chinley. And Howard, please stand. Our labor relations officer, Mrs. Jennifer Baptiste Primus. Our welfare officer, Mrs. Jocelyn Bodden. Jocelyn is out of the country. And our lady vice chairman, Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis. All of these persons have already been elected. Thank you. But you know that an election is a hot time. So I am just hot and sweaty up here. But ladies and gentlemen, here is a hot time, Jennifer. I can imagine what he said. Ladies and gentlemen, what keeps our party, the party of choice and the party that is taking over, the party that people want to come to, is Balize House. And the person in Balize House who has to make sure that that location and the party continues to do well and continues to be welcoming is the General Secretary. And so, on this red Rowley slate, the person who is being put forward to you for General Secretary is Mr. Foster Cummings. And without a doubt, we are quite sure that Foster will make an excellent General Secretary. But it is not for me to say why. I know why. But it is for Foster to convince you of why he would be the best choice. So Foster, you have 3 minutes to engage this audience, and please let us know something about you.
Thank you, Lady Vice Chairman, Mr. Camille Robinson Regis, political leader, Dr. Rowley, Chairman of the party and Chairman of the Diego Martin Corporation, my fellow candidates and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen of the PNM. My name is Foster Cummings. I am from the constituency of Couva South. I joined the People's National Movement sometime in 1987, following the defeat of the party at the hands of the NAR 33-3. And at that time, it was not very fashionable to be a PNM, so we formed this group called Youth Leaders in Action, and we hid behind that group and moved throughout Trinidad and Tobago, mobilizing young people into youth groups that were not called PNM groups at the time, but in fact were PNM groups that worked throughout the communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago as well. And I recall sometime in 1988, I became involved in the executive of the Couva South constituency. As a matter of fact, sometime around 89, I became the chairman of the constituency. I was only 19 at the time. And I've served on the General Council of the PNM for the last 28 years. I've served as youth officer male of the PNM. I've served as field officer of the PNM. I'm currently the election officer of the party, and with your support, will be the General Secretary after the 30th of September. So that unless somebody can produce some other kind of history, I think so far I'm the only individual to have held 3 separate officer positions in the party and moving to a 4th. So that's a bit of history there for you. It is my intention to work as I have been doing in the past, but even harder now, to give support to the political leader, so the incoming chairman and executive, to make sure that the PNM headquarters, we're soon moving to a new building, to make sure that the headquarters of the PNM is modernized, efficient, and effective, to ensure that the PNM is an unbeatable election machine and that we are in government for the longest time to come, for the generations to come, because the only party that can really govern this country in the best interest of all its citizens is the People's National Movement. And I think I still have 55 seconds, so the party is open to everyone, and those who are ambitious are free to submit themselves to nomination. But as I have said to some persons who spoke to me about their interest in vying for party office, the PNM is about teamwork. It's not about individualism. And if you want to make a contribution to the party, then you have to believe in teamwork and you have to be able to work with the team. And therefore, anybody who is about trying to prove a point for their personal gain, they will not have my support whatsoever. I am working with the Red and Rowley team, and I urge each and every one of you to support this team as the winning team.
Thank you very much, Foster. And ladies and gentlemen, what does the RED stand for with the Red Rowley team? Real, experience, dependable. And that is, in fact, what we present to you as a team. Real, experience, and dependable. And one person who is extremely dependable on this slate is the Assistant General Secretary candidate. That is Mr. Daniel Dukey. Daniel, thank you very much for coming forward again. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, our distinguished political leader, party chairman, chairman of the corporation. Good afternoon. I'm very delighted to be here and in my remaining 2 minutes and 45 seconds to share a few thoughts with you. I got involved in the People's National Movement in the year 2002 as a general election candidate in the constituency of Pointe-a-Pierre. That is in 2002, and since then I have been with the constituency through thick and thin, and since then I have continued to serve at the level of the General Council. I also served the party in a number of committees, including the Public Relations Committee. I would have served with Laurel. I would have also served in the Strategic Review Committee in our opposition times. I would have served also in the Party Constitution Review Committee. I became Assistant General Secretary, I believe it was the year 2010, and I served in that capacity until sometime last year with the departure of my former boss, Ashton Ford, when the General Council approved me to assume the position of General Secretary, and I was happy to take that challenge and let you know that I would have given it my all. I also served as an alderman in the San Fernando City Council for approximately 3 years. So I'm delighted to offer myself once more for the Assistant General Secretary position. I think Ashton and I would have developed a great synergistic relationship over the years, and I'm sure my new boss, Foster Cummins, and I would also do likewise. I urge you, ladies and gentlemen, because I think over the years, as a team, not just myself, but all my colleagues, would have shown that we are committed, that we have demonstrated that we have the ability, the motivation, the commitment, and the love for the party and the country to continue to take us into the future with confidence and to ensure that we have many successes together. So I'm ready to serve again. Are you ready? Well, join Team Rowley on our way to victory. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. experience and dependability. Daniel Duki for Assistant General Secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the executive of the PNM is the chairman of the party. And as I said yesterday, when the chairman speaks, we all have to adhere to whatever the chairman says. When he speaks at General Council, we have to adhere. When he speaks at the Central Executive, we have to adhere. When he speaks generally for the party, we all as party members have to adhere. And we did that with Franklin Kahn. And you can be sure that we will do that with Colum Imbert. Ladies and gentlemen, our candidate for chairman of this great political party, Mr. Colum Imbert. And on this occasion, he will have to adhere to me. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Camille. Kind of caught by surprise. Yesterday we had a different batting order. I came in at number 10. Dr. Keith Rowley, political leader of the People's National Movement and Prime Minister. My unopposed, elected fellow members of Team Red and Rowley, Ms. Regis, Mr. Chinley, Ms. Bodden, Ms. Batiste. Primers. All them play all the luckiest. And of course, our political leader. As I said yesterday in Arima when we launched our campaign, it's a great honor to be asked to be on Dr. Rowley's slate to contest the position of chairman of the party. I just want to say a few things about myself and about PNM in general. I've been involved in policy formulation for the PNM since 1988. I've been one of the principal authors of every general election manifesto since then, 1991, 1995, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2007, 2010, and 2015. So I am deep inside the PNM, and I'm a very deep part of PNM policy. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. I've been an elected member of parliament for 27 years. There's only one other member of parliament who has the same experience in the House of Representatives and more than me in the Senate, and that is Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. But to be chairman of this party means a lot. It's a lot of hard work. We're going into a local government election in 2019, which we will win, not must win, will win. We don't make joke in this party. We didn't win the 2015 election by guess. Dr. Rowley put together a committed team, and we all worked together, and we were successful in the 2015 election. We will win the 2019 local government election, and we will win the 2020 general election. And the reason why we will win, I was accidentally looking at a documentary today on Channel 4, I think, which was a part of a series on the life and times of Dr. Eric Williams. And those of you who get a chance, you take a look at it. It's in parts. I saw the part right up to this first part is up to the point where he agreed to become involved in politics, and where he agreed to be part of the formation of a new political party. And this documentary traces the history of Trinidad and Tobago from the 1800s right up to 1955, when Dr. Williams agreed to be part of politics. Before that, he was a spokesman, an intellectual, a speaker, a champion of intellectual freedom. That's one of the hallmarks of one of his speeches in Woodford Square. And when you read that, you understand what PNM means to this country. We brought free education to this country. I always remember Mr. Manning talking about the fact that there were 400 exhibitions in secondary school. And he came 401st. And he had to get help to get into secondary school. Those were days that I can't conceive and conceptualize, that you couldn't get into secondary school unless you won one of these 4 exhibitions. Even in that documentary, they spoke about the fact that when the governor first agreed that citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, or residents, because we were a British colony, could vote, only 6% of the population was qualified to vote. It was not until 1946 that every person above the age of 21 was allowed to vote in Trinidad and Tobago. So we've come a long way. The PNM has taken us from that colonial backwater to this modern industrial state we are in today. And this PNM government under Dr. Rowley's leadership took over the government at a very difficult time, but we've stabilized the country, we've stabilized the economy, we are now poised for growth. And I want to tell you something. If and when I am elected as chairman of the People's National Movement, this great party, I'll give it 100%. I'll rebuild this party and make it stronger as we go forward into 2019 and 2020 under the astute leadership of Dr. Rowley. Every member of this team, listen to them, listen to Foster Cummins. I only found out yesterday that he was the youngest ever constituency chairman in the PNM. Amazing. A constituency chairman at age 19. Every member of our slate has a story. Every member is committed. Every member is experienced. Every member is reliable. Every member is dependable. Every member is committed. And every member is a true member of the PNM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about real, and we talk about experience, and we talk about dependability, we talk about Indar Parasram. Real, experienced, and dependable. Indar Parasram is going for the position of elections officer, having served as field officer. Indar, please come and address us for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Lady Vice Chairman, political leader, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Chairman of the party, Honorable Franklin Khan, Chairman of the Diego Martin Corporation, fellow candidates, fellow members of the People's National Movement, good afternoon. As the Vice Chairman said, my name is Indar Parasram, and I happened to join this party on the 28th of November, 1987. It makes me 31 years in the party. And therefore, just like the incoming General Secretary, I am coming from the constituency of Hoover South. And both myself would have served under Foster as chairman, but Foster would have served at least 14 years under my chairmanship of the constituency of Hoover South. I have served in the General Council for approximately 24 years, 13 years on the Central Executive of the party, and for the last 7 years as field officer of this great party. Looking ahead, I'm now looking at the 2019 local government elections and the 2020 general elections. And looking at my background, having managed approximately more than 20 candidates in both the general elections, local government elections, and I was reminded yesterday, the Tobago House of Assembly elections the last 4 times. I have decided that I am the best person suited for this party, as Foster is moving out of the elections officer, to take that position as elections officer of the party to ensure that come 2019 local government elections and 2020 general elections, we are ready, we are well mobilized to ensure that the People's National Movement retains governance. Thank you very much.
To assist the elections officer in ensuring that we are well mobilized for any election, the field officer is of extreme importance. Ladies and gentlemen, as Indar said, he served as field officer, but now he's moving to the position of elections officer. Our candidate for the position of field officer is none other than His Worship the Mayor of Point Fortin, Mr. Abdon Mason. Abdon, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, Our Lady Vice Chairman, our political leader, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Party Chairman, Mr. Franklin Khan, and my colleague in local government, Chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, Councillor Susan Hong. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abdon Mason. I hail from Point Fortin. And I say that with pride because I believe that we in Point Fortin are a great group of people. We are the backbone, to some extent, of the People's National Movement. We gave in the past and will continue to give as we move on. But let me tell you, some 33 years ago while attending secondary school, a young man brought me a form to join the People's National Movement. And I did not just fill out the form. I read the Constitution of the PNM, and at that stage in my life, I was convinced that the People's National Movement was the best thing for Trinidad and Tobago. Surprisingly, not too long after that, the National Alliance for Reconstruction decimated us at the polls. But I determined back then that if I believe it's the greatest, I must continue to pour greatness into this party so this party could continue to be great for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And it has done that. It has done exactly that. In Point Fortin, I have served as chairman, vice chairman, education officer, secretary, assistant. As a matter of fact, there are only 2 positions I have not held in Point Fortin. Lady Vice Chairman and the newly introduced social media officer. And I make no joke about it. I believe that the PNM is going to be the rescue mission for Trinidad and Tobago. My children will not have a Trinidad and Tobago to inherit if we don't have a PNM. And you should applaud it. And if you look around, you would recognize what has taken place when the PNM is not in government. I look at the apathetic individuals out there who are saying, so what? Whoever wins, I will make it. But somehow, they sometimes change their mind from focusing on the hell we have faced when the PNM not in government. My mission is to be a field officer, and I intend to come out to every constituency to make sure that the PNM is well positioned to continue taking us to the promised land. My name is Abdon Mason. I am your candidate for field officer.
Abdon, you look like you win already, boy. But Abdon, why you didn't go for Lady Vice Chairman? Ladies and gentlemen, it is imperative that as we take this party forward, we ensure, as Dr. Rowley has continuously said, that our young people are involved. And the position of youth officer is of extreme importance in ensuring that. And yesterday we were told that it is young for youth. And so I asked Ndale Young to come forward and give us his information.
Pleasant good afternoon. Thank you very much, Lady Vice Chairman, Ms. Camille Robinson-Regis. Political leader, chairman of the party, chairman of the constituency, wonderful people, wonderful young people. My name is Ndale Young, and I hail from the constituency of Barataria Sawa. Now, I hail from the constituency of Barataria Sawa, not Sawa Barataria. So Barataria is first for a reason. We're first because we gave to the nation, if you don't know now, we gave the wonderful minister to the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. So while she might be representing in other areas, but she's definitely from Barataria Sawa. I have been a member of the People's National Movement since 1999. And I joined immediately after school, like I've done, like other people. Primarily because in the area of Barataria Sanwan, when I look about to see what was happening and where the progress was going and what I should study and what I should be doing, if you were not a member of the People's National Movement, you didn't understand what was coming. That was a part that made me join. Because it's the only party that had a future in mind. They didn't govern for the present circumstance, they governed with the future in mind. And because I was, younger at the time, although I'm forever young, it gave me some impetus that I should join at that age. But fast forward to that, in the year 2013, I became the field officer for the constituency and a member of the General Council. I've served since then. I've also served as campaign manager for the late, great Pernell Bruno in Barataria, the first time he would have won, and that would be the first time we won Barataria in all of about 15 years, and I would have been the youngest campaign manager at that time. Also, I've been a member of the Field Officers Committee, PRO Committee, Membership Screening Committee for the last 5 odd years. But when you say, but young man, what are you going to offer? Look at these juggernauts. They have experience. They've been here for a while. You now come. People like to say, just come. Well, you see the real part of the thing? That is me. My thing about it is we need to be real in this time. And even with the youth, we could no longer afford to fool our youth and tell them, well, just vote for we and we're going to set you free. The youths require reality. And what I propose to the nation's youth as a whole and to the PNM youth is advocacy to bring to this country a state of godliness in our youth. That they will come back to the belief of a higher power, because if they believe somebody was watching, I personally believe that they wouldn't have done some of the things that they're doing now. That's my first commitment. Secondly, to the youth of the party, we need a home. I spoke to Abdon Mason and he pointed out in the yard of the Vale house. You see that window up on top there? That was the office of the youth officer, the chairman of the youth league. It is now, pigeons have it, but it was my office. And I rule from up there. And when he said that, yes, you said it. And he tell me how he beat up Foster and he do this and all type of other things, but it's okay. For the purpose of this meeting, we wouldn't mention that. And I think if we have to go anywhere forward, the youth of this party, especially you, they need a home in Vale's house. So I want to say to the incoming General Secretary, in the nice new building that we have, and even now, we need a home. And we're looking to you for it. Another point that I think that we can continue to bring to the nation's youth is the fact that mental health is an issue in this whole society. Mental health in the US, in the youths, is something that I think that we can take from one place to another. Yeah, no more 3 minutes, almost up. And the final thing is to bring the youth league and the youths of Trinidad and Tobago in line with the national youth policy. And for this purpose, I ask that you vote young for youth.
Thank you very much, Ndale. A lot of our young people are getting their news from social media. And so it is imperative that the People's National Movement has a social media officer. We have that position, and the person that is on this red slate for that position is none other than Mr. Avinash Singh. Avinash, please come forward.
Thank you, Lady Vice Chair of this wonderful and lovely party. Our political leader and Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher, our party chairman and chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation. Sitaram, assalamu alaikum, and a pleasant good evening. PNM people, how are you? All right, just testing my social media officer skills. All right, so I am Avinash Singh, and I am going to be your next social media officer, working together with our PRO, incoming, Laurel Lizama. And what I bring to the table is passion, commitment, and youth. As we're on the topic of youth and coming after young, I want to indicate that having been appointed as an opposition senator after facing the Chaguanas West by-election, I was appointed in the parliament of this country at age 25. In fact, I was a week into my 25th birthday. So for those paying attention, they can go back to the parliament records, and I think I have the record for being appointed as the youngest senator in this country. Thanks to our honorable opposition leader back then and current prime minister now. Having fought the Chaguanas West by-election, and then offering myself again in Caroni Central, I managed to bring in Caroni Central for the 2015 general election 7,206 votes at a time when Central Trinidad, as some of our opponents would say, it's our supporters, it's we and them. I, Avinash Singh, intend to change that logic in Central Trinidad. And I can only do it with this great party, the People's National Movement. Because if it's one thing I learned, and being a Hindu, my scriptures taught me, stories of the past in which we live our lives today, great being, great persons, great individual, walked this earth and did great things at a time when it was needed. And right about now, as social media officer, I pledge my unwavering commitment and support for Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley. And I'll tell you why. This gentleman is a legend to come. And when we talk about legends, my children will be at school looking on and saying, that man, our Prime Minister then, made decisions that we will benefit from in our country. And I will tell you, in this time, in Hinduism, we call it Kali Yuga, which is a time in our teachings where evil seems to prosper in some avenues. But I could tell you, we have a great man at this point in time who would lead us out of the challenges that we find ourselves in. And I have no hesitation in supporting a leader, a political leader of this party, where I am proud to say I am PNM, and I'm 100% PNM from Felicity Chaguanas, yes, south of the Caroni. I will tell you, I will continue flying the PNM's flag as high as I can and bring forth content, generate content as social media officer together with our PRO to carry the length and breadth of this country and by extension the world, to let everyone out there know we are the PNM. We are stronger than ever, and we will definitely be here for a very long time. Thank you, and make sure you vote for Avinash Singh as your next social media officer. God bless.
Thank you very much, Avinash. In 2014, the political leader, opposition leader said, we are also an open democratic society which cherishes its constitutionally protected rights and freedoms. We have a strong, vigilant press which is jealous of its own freedom and which is by and large responsible in the exercise of its freedom. And that is why it is so important for us as a party to have the right person in the position of public relations officer. The public relations officer and the social media officer will be the face of the PNM. And on the red Rowley slate, our choice for public relations officer is Laurel Lezama Leasing.
Thank you very much, Madam Lady Vice Chairman, Political Leader and Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Party Chairman and Chairman of the Diego Martin Corporation, fellow candidates on Team Red and Rowley, and supporters of Team Red and Rowley. Good afternoon. My name is Laurel Lazama Leasing, and I am offering myself to the People's National Movement to be the Public Relations Officer. I am three very important things. I am Trinbagonian, I am Arimian, and I am PNM. This month, I celebrate my 25th anniversary in the People's National Movement. Yes, I joined the party at -4 years old. For my 12th birthday, my mother took me into Balize House in my little St. Joseph's Convent uniform and signed me up to formally join a party that I had been canvassing for 4 years before that. At that point in time, we would have been in opposition in 1993, and in Form 1, my mother bravely covered all my books in some Balize paper that said, "Let the flowers bloom again." So I walked in bravely into my school with my very, very PNM pride and happily went my way, and I have never turned back or looked back on the People's National Movement. I have had the privilege of serving in 8 out of the 10 units of the party. Party group, constituency group, legislative group, National Youth League. I served as its chairman, and I was its youngest chairman, and that's where I met Foster and Abdon and Mr. Chinley. I have served as an alderman. I have served as a government senator. I have served on the Public Relations Committee, Research Committee, Rules and Regulations Committee, Field Officers Committee, a number of other committees, but there is nothing that can question my PNM-ness. You see, the PNM has been very, very good to my country, Trinidad and Tobago, and has been good and faithful. And because I love my country, I am good and faithful to the People's National Movement. It is my belief and my duty to tell the story of the People's National Movement to the wider population and to the world as needs be. You see, it is the PNM that is the only party that has had a vision for the development of Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM is the only party that has executed said vision for the development of Trinidad and Tobago. And together, we will work towards ensuring that we fulfill Vision 2030 under the astute leadership of our political leader, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, with whom I am very humbled to serve and pleased to have been offered this opportunity. And so, my friends, I ask for your support as we go to the polls on September 30th, to be your choice for the Public Relations Officer of the People's National Movement. Help me to tell our PNM story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurel. For each meeting that the People's National Movement has, there is a person and a committee that sets up everything that we put in place. And that person is Irene Hines. Well, I guess, Irene.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, Dr. Rowley, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I really considered running for PRO, but my language not good as Laurel, so I didn't go for that. And at one time, I was contemplating political leader. You know. I say, no. You see them people in Diego Martin West? Oh gosh, Rita Mitchell from Diego Martin West, she just pray for me. I can't do that, Rita. That's the only reason Dr. Rowley get away, because of you. But anyway, I am Irene Hines. I joined this party in 1983. I love the PNM. I feel it's the only political party to help Trinidad and Tobago. I know about book grant. My daughter lives on book grant. I went to junior sec and senior comprehensive schools. So I know about that PNM policy. You know, I got a call saying I sell out because I'm Dr. Rowley's late. But I will tell them why I sell out at the next meeting. But I sell out to Dr. Rowley and them. So the them is Andrew Gabriel and Rohan Sinanan. So I just want to say about the them. Andrew Gable and Rohan Senanan. From 2011, I became operations officer. I am the last person to leave the meeting and the first person to arrive. And if it's two gentlemen I saw every night, and if I didn't see them, they call to ask me how I was doing, was Rohan Senanan and Andrew Gabriel. So I really, really don't have a problem with that sellout because I know they supported me, right? So I want to tell you, when you go to polls on September 30th, this is how we used to do it long time. This is the voice of the People's National Movement. September 30th is polling day. When you go to the polls for operations officer, vote Irene Hines, Team Rowley. We read and ready. Thank you very much. Read and ready, Irene Hines. And let me say, quite honestly, Irene is the only one who stuck to 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Code of Conduct for Elections of Officers of the Movement, according to the Code of Conduct that we all signed on to, states, and I quote, under governing principles, 1, members of the movement pledge to scrupulously respect and observe this code in its letter and spirit. 2, members are entitled to aspire to office and candidates shall be treated equally regarding the opportunity to offer themselves, to receive and accept nominations, and to campaign for and to hold office. 3, members may support the candidates of their choice without being subject to penalty, discipline, ridicule, intimidation, or reprisal of any kind. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard from those members of Team Rowley who are contesting, who have contestants. And because of the fact that I am taking instructions already from the General Secretary, I was doing a particular lead-up, but now I have to change that, and I'm going to come back to this. But I want to make sure that you hear from the person who, in the absence of the chairman, we will have to listen to. And that is candidate Robert Lee Hunt. And before he comes, let me just remind you that in the absence of the chairman and in the absence of the vice chairman, you all have to listen to me. All right? So now I bring before you Robert Lee Hunt, candidate for vice chairman.
Thank you very much, Camille. Now you see pullback, I tell you, boy, masterful. Our political leader, the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley, our chairman of the Regional Corporation. My name is Robert Lee Hunt. You know, there's a lot of things going around about who is this person. And some people even asking about where he come from. Well, I'll take my 3 minutes, this point in time, to let people understand that I'm in PNM since 1986. I joined PNM at a time when the fashionable group for all graduates was to go to the ONR and the NAR. By 1990, I was vice chairman of the Faizabad constituency. I dare say, as an individual, I am one of the few people that have served in almost 3 constituencies in the PNM at the executive level. Vice chairman of Faizabad, vice chairman of San Fernando West, and treasurer of Diego Martin Northeast. I must also at that time tell you, I also served on the General Council representing those parties that I said, Faizabad, Northeast, San Fernando West. I was an alderman in the San Fernando City Corporation. I was the coordinator and the person responsible during the opposition times of ensuring that St. Joseph, at the time when we were looking for Mr. Dayal Singh and winning that constituency, I was the coordinator responsible for St. Joseph. I was also presently, I am the coordinator for Faizabad. And when Dabadi Omera elections was in a little bit of problems, I was the person running the election in Dabadi Omera at the last election. So that is Robert LaHunt. What is my motto in life? I and my friend Linda Murray comes from an organization called the JCs. And it's very simple. The reason why you haven't heard about me outside there holding a number of office, because I believe in working on the ground, in the constituencies with the people, because service to humanity is the best work of life. Teamwork is one that says together each achieve more. I came back here after being the managing director of a bank to offer myself a service for Trinidad and Tobago and be part of Dr. Rowley's team in the cabinet as we are trying to achieve more and do what is right for Trinidad and Tobago. I am also extremely proud, sir, to be part of your team, the Red Team, as we try to build on all the fantastic things that the previous chairman and all the executives before us have done for this great party. And as we take our party with our service mentality back to the people and ensure that we prepare ourselves so that we will be victorious, as my chairman said, and I am already following instructions, not only in the local government election to come, but the general election that will be thereafter. So, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, Robert LaHunt, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and it shall prevail.
Well done, Robert. Our code of conduct says, whereas in Article 2 of the Constitution of the movement, that it was founded and is founded upon democratic principles and pledges, among other things, to promote and maintain the democratic way of life in Trinidad and Tobago. And whereas free and fair elections is integral to the democratic process, and whereas the members of the movement acknowledge that in the exercise of electoral process, the general atmosphere may become highly charged, now this code of conduct shall serve as the governing principles for the guidance of the movement. And the governing principles state, among other things, members are entitled to aspire to office and candidates shall be treated equally regarding the opportunity to offer themselves, to receive and accept nominations, and to campaign for and to hold office. So you have heard from members of the Red and Rowley slate. But ladies and gentlemen, yesterday when we launched, our political leader said that members of other slates are free to come to the meeting and to speak at the meetings of the Red and Rowley slate. As far as I know, we have 2 members who are here, and we are going to allow them to come and speak to us. The first person that we will call upon is the candidate for the position of Public Relations Officer, Mr. Brennan Patterson. Yes? And Mr. Patterson, I'm tempted to give you 1 minute, but given that I adhere to the code of conduct, I will give you 2.
Lady Vice Chair, Ms. Camille Robinson Regis, Political Leader, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Party Chairman, Mr. Franklin Khan, Chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, I am Brennan Patterson, your candidate for the position of Public Relations Officer. When I joined the PNM, as many of my colleagues here, I too was in school uniform, around the savannah coming from Arima every day. I think some of my colleagues here from KRC, they would know that. I was always red and ready. I have served in both the Arima constituency and the WMR constituency at numerous levels also. I've also served at the party's general council, being one of the youngest persons at that time representing my constituency of WMR. When I hear about the red team, I said to myself, I said, this is also me. Because we are all PNM. And when I say PNM, I say we all represent an institution that has a strong history in Trinidad and Tobago. We belong, I would like to say that we as a people in the PNM, we want to see great things under the leadership of one man. That is Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. And I too like to call myself red, because I like to say, Dr. Rowley, you can always depend on me. I am reliable. I am youthful. I am energetic. And D, I am always dependable to the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Brennan Patterson, your candidate for Public Relations Officer. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patterson. There is another candidate here, and he is vying for the position of Elections Officer, and that is Mr. Darian Marcel. Darian, you have 3 minutes. Let me say that I did give Mr. Patterson his 3 minutes, but you have 3 minutes.
A very pleasant afternoon, one and all. Madam Vice Chairman, political leader, and Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, Chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, first citizen of this region, my former colleague Suzanne Hung, and Chairman of the party, Mr. Franklin Khan. A very pleasant afternoon to one and all. This is not an occasion that I would have missed. Normally, you don't come and fraternize with the enemy. But to be quite frank, when Dr. Rowley made that statement yesterday, I'm not sure that many of us really embraced the moment of what that was signaling. And therefore, I wanted to be part of history. I wanted to be part of this. It is for the first time that in an election in the PNM and probably anywhere else, those opposed to you are given the opportunity to come on your platform. And what Dr. Rowley has signaled, folks, is nothing likely. He has signaled that he's political leader of all. And it is very consistent with all the changes made in our constitution starting in 2012. And we mustn't take it for granted. And therefore, me being here is to really celebrate that, because it really is the embodiment of the PNM way. I'm a PNM child. I hear people talking about the Communist Party in 1995. Let me just tell you this. I have had 3 party cards, all PNM. The first one, rub off in my wallet. Mr. Best signed that. The second one, Martin Joseph signed. And the third one, Ashton Ford signed. I'm a member of this PNM since July 1st, 1978. So when people was coming from Tapia or the Rogevex, I meet them at the door. When they come from the ONR, I met them at the door. When they come from the ULF, I welcomed everybody into the PNM. I am proud to be a PNM child. So, let me just say this. I am from the best constituency in the PNM. Aruka Maloney, the best constituency in Trinidad and Tobago. And I am from the best party group, chairman of Aruka Maloney and party group 23, the very best. Here what happened? Well, they fight up for second and third. But I have been, and by the way, Mr. Yambert met me in Degomate Northeast. My MP is standing by me. That is her supporting me there. She's standing supporting me. Yeah, my MP is backing me. This is my MP supporting me. She can't help it but stand by me. And you know, let me just say before I close, Miss Superville in the back there, I came up in this party holding on to the skate on Norma Louis Philip, Mr. Overand Padma. Hold on now. I begging, madam, I leave it now. But let me just say this. I, Darian Marcel, has offered myself as election officer, and I want to take up a particular position. I want to be the groundsman. You know, you're playing cricket and think the ground had to be ready, the pitch had to be right. Well, this have two meanings. One, in 2008, 2009, we misled the leader by misinformation. I want to make sure the ground ready for 2015, 2018, 2019, 2020. Right? And secondly, the ground must know that somebody on this executive they could relate to. Thanks for your vote. Thanks for your support. Have a good afternoon. Leader, thank you.
One of the things that this party adheres to is discipline. Mr. Chairman, one and done. But ladies and gentlemen, today you have had the opportunity to see the entire Rowley slate bar one person. And it is a slate of candidates that demonstrates the power, the potency, and the pride of the PNM. But there is one person that I did not ask to speak as yet. And that person is the candidate on this slate for the position of education officer. Our candidate for education officer is a patriarch of this party. He is one of the founding members of this party. He is a true patriot of Trinidad and Tobago, having served as Minister of National Security, Minister of Education, Minister of Public Utilities, Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Minister of Agriculture. And I think I may be missing one more. Minister of Petroleum and Mines. And that is none other than the veteran and the venerable Overand Padma. And Mr. Padma will be given 10 minutes to speak to us.
Thank you, Lady Vice Chair. Party Chairman, political leader, Chairman of the Degomate Regional Corporation. After hearing all of the contributions from the candidates before you, it makes me wonder if there is really a job for the education officer to do after this. Everybody seems to be well grounded, well prepared, etc. But the candidate for party chairman did say something. He said, local government election comes in 2019. We will win the local government election. The general election comes in 2020. We will win the... And you have all clapped. The problem is, Dr. Williams had cautioned us against certain certitudes. What he used to say then, and still resonates today, is that for all the good work that the People's National Movement has done in Trinidad and Tobago, the enemies of the PNM are likely to come from within the PNM. And therefore, when we express these certainties, we have to be careful that we don't. But let me put it another way. The only time that the PNM has lost elections, not that the other side has won, the only time the PNM has lost elections is when PNM seats turned against the PNM. And it has happened before, and sometimes when you listen to rhetoric, you realize it can happen again. Because ever so often, people who support the PNM, particularly at the ground level, say, the PNM don't do anything for we. And they say that in a context where people are not understanding trends that are taking place in the world today. Everybody, a lot of people who support the PNM believe that the minute the PNM comes into government, a government job is available for everyone. All I have to say is I voted PNM and I could send you to Wassa, or I could send you to Petrotrin, or I could send you to Caroniers when it was in existence at the time. We now know that that is not the case. And we now know that PNM, if it is to contribute to service in Trinidad and Tobago, has to be able to persuade by the power of the rhetoric of its leaders that that mental approach to why I support the PNM can no longer exist. Much of that responsibility devolves not necessarily on the representative, but on us as individuals in this society. We have to build it, and we do it in conjunction with a willing party. PNM was established in '56. I remember then the rival party was called PDP. When we fought the '61 election, it was DLP. When we fought a subsequent election, it was, what was it? ULF. And then we also had an election that turned out the PNM, it was NAR. And then the NAR, which won so convincingly 33-3, that most people thought they would have been there forever, it turned out that they claimed that they were a party, they were not really a party. I don't know how many of you could remember that famous night of that election, when the 33-3 election result was declared, and Mr. Pandey was interviewed on television. He was absolutely the most confused man of them all, because he suddenly realized the authority he thought he would have exercised in that party, because of the magnitude of the victory, it was not possible. And from the very inception, instability was the order of the day of a 33-3 party. They could have amended the Constitution. They could have brought in the Caribbean Court of Justice. They could have done all the things that we felt were necessary to change the face of Trinidad and Tobago. None of those things they achieved, because the magnitude of their victory did not speak to a disciplined party and organization. When we speak of disciplined party and organization, we can only speak of the People's National Movement. And really, that is why we are so important to the future of Trinidad and Tobago. And it is not as if, as a society, we have not been without our challenges. All societies, bigger countries, they have had their revolutions that have destroyed it. We have had attempts at dislocating our society as well. 1970, that was the year that I came into politics at the invitation of Dr. Williams. But that was the year of the social upheaval here in Trinidad and Tobago. The situation was saved by the unstinting devotion of the police service at that time. Remember, even within the Defense Force, there was a threat to law and order emanating from the very military service. We were able to depend for the survival of the constitution of the country on the work of one of the sinews of our democracy, the police service of Trinidad and Tobago. Fast forward to 1990, where this was now not internal social dislocation. It was a deliberate attempt to overthrow the government. And here again, it was the military that came to the rescue. But remember, so many of us on so many occasions talk about them fellas living fat down in Shagaramas and they're eating a lot of food and they're not doing anything. And our people did not recognize that you really, in a small state like Trinidad and Tobago, you want a military because you never want to have to use them. But in the event that it becomes necessary, they are there. I remember that famous 1990 occasion. I was home, and suddenly I was getting awkward signals on the radio. My telephone went, and I couldn't understand. I rushed out to speak to my neighbor opposite. Same thing was said. Something seems to be happening. And well, we all now know what was happening. But that organization that so many of us were so happy at times to dismiss of idling, these fellas idling down there doing nothing, excuse me, it turned out that even before the episode started, it was finished. Why? They thought they did a very clever thing by arranging this intervention on a day when so many of us were occupied with, remember there was the football final, regional football final at the stadium. And the radio stations were broadcasting the event. And therefore people thought that a lot of attention would have been transferred down there. That was part of their planning, which in a sense was rational and made sense. But there was another side of it which they did not think of. Not only was John Public at the game, but there were among John Public were many members of the Defense Force. So when one of the officers, who was a football officer, got the information that something was afoot, he took the simple step of having it announced over the public's address system. Would all members of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force assemble at a point that was identified? And soldiers, military people, being the dutiful people that they are, not knowing why they were called upon to assemble, they came to watch football. Why are they being called upon? But they all did. And that was when they commandeered a lot of vehicles, took them to Long Circular Road, the army camp there. And that was how the response to the intervention was as swift as it was. Because you had a whole group of soldiers assembled at one point, and they were able to transport them to their army camp and get them to. And from the very outset, Trinidad House, not Trinidad House, the television station, TTT, there was a cordon put around it, a very wide cordon that was gradually brought in, the same thing with the Red House, so that even though the government was in trouble, confined in the Red House, the possibility of success was eliminated almost at the outset. What this tells us is that here in Trinidad and Tobago, we have functioning institutions that do the job that they are designed to do, whether it was 1970 with the police, 1990 with the Defense Force. And that is what when we continue to downgrade and ill-speak ourselves the way we do, we must recognize that our institutions have served us, and if we find in circumstances they appear to be deteriorating, we must help in rebuilding the confidence of these institutions and their leaders. That we are enjoying our democracy in Trinidad and Tobago today is as a result of our efforts at overcoming the challenges that were presented to us. We don't give ourselves enough credit for things like that. Look, just the earthquake, where people were terrified. It took place just at the time, this last earthquake here about 2 or 3 weeks ago. People were terrified. On lesser events than that, you have had people robbing people on the roadside, etc. Anything like that happen? No. It was remarkably crime-free. But, you know, nowhere did I read anything talking about. All I did hear, people talked about the presence of the police in large numbers on the streets of Port-au-Spain. Nobody said that may well have accounted for the fact that there was no lawlessness at that time of grave vulnerability. And these are the things we need to take note of when we try to undermine our confidence in ourselves. And that is what we should protect ourselves against. Most recently, we had the Privy Council giving a decision on a matter involving the Chief Justice. And the leader of the opposition issued a release praising the decision and thanking God for the Privy Council. What was the reality? The Privy Council decision upheld the decision of the Court of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago. Why did she not thank God for the Court of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago? Her problem, of course, is they want to keep us tied to the Privy Council because they do not have confidence in themselves. That in much the same way, why is it that the country must be told, vote out the colonial overlords and put us to run the country, but we can't vote out the colonial overlords and put us to administer justice? What is it that the politicians have that the judges do not have? And that is why we would like to see the issue of the Caribbean Court picked up again and put the onus on the opposition to say no, rather than the fact that they say the government just hasn't brought it back before us. That is a matter that we need to have resolved. One of the functions of the Education Committee that we would like to see take place is bringing a lot of these kinds of episodes to the attention of people. Often enough, we don't think about them, and therefore these things take place and they just go by. We must focus attention on what they mean and what they don't mean. And unless and until we begin to think constructively along those lines, our politics will continue to be disrupted in all sorts of ways. You know, one of the things that when we got our independence, that conference was on the verge of breakdown. What I think would have been the last day of the conference, that it had broken up the day before without any sign of resolution. And the morning in question, and what I'm saying is based on one of the members who attended the discussions I had with him. He had spoken with Dr. Capilio. We cannot allow this to break down. And he was amenable to something being worked out. He then went and spoke to Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams and Dr. Capilio met. And on the resumption of the conference, Dr. Capilio made a presentation, Dr. Williams made a presentation, and the British officials were all taken by complete surprise at what appeared to be breakdown yesterday was consensus to go forward today. We went, achieved our independence in peace, without destruction, because of the coming together of the Prime Minister, well, at that time he was being the Premier of the country and the opposition leader of the country. This is an achievement that we have never really fully celebrated. And maybe this is something that the Prime Minister may wish to consider. We got our independence in peace, unlike what we see happen in so many places around the world today. So, folks, we are on the verge of the internal elections in the People's National Movement. I am a candidate for the education officer's position. One of the things that I would hope to do is to try to get the cadres within the PNM more sensitized to where we came from, where we are today, and how we are to move forward. Too often we behave as though the world owes us something or we can dictate to the world, etc. That's not how the world operates today. Everything is a matter of power, influence, etc. And if you don't have that, you are not thought of. And this is not what we would like to see happen to Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, we are small, but we are significant. We are not insignificant. And we must not behave and conduct ourselves as if we are insignificant people. Dr. Williams carried a banner, a mantle of authority when he was around, and he gained respect around the world because of the manner in which he conducted himself and the authority with which he delivered whatever he had to deliver. We must bring that back into the discourse in our land again. And if the PNM is to develop these cadres, we within the movement, the various officers, and in particular in this instance the Education Committee, will do our best to try to bring, to sensitize our people to the reality of life in the modern world and what it will take to ensure that if we are to continue to be relevant, we must be adaptable to the changes that are taking place in the world. So that, ladies and gentlemen, the elections are coming up at the end of the month. We hope that the party members will participate as much as we hope the citizens would participate at national elections and give us a team that we can speak to the country in a way that no other political party can speak to the country. You know, during the normal course of the political year, you will get every now and again the end of the PNM General Council met yesterday, or the PNM Central Executive met. Which other political party in this country you ever get reports of their meetings on a regular basis? They are not political parties. They are just groups that come together for their own individual, for purposes they best know of. Because remember, when we had that last change, a lot of the problems we are experiencing today arose from the quality and nature of government that we had during the 2010 to 2015 period. And God help us if we ever return ourselves to that kind of governance. They have given no indication that they have changed in their understanding of morality and ethics and an absence of corruption, etc. They have given no evidence of that. And we must not allow them to occupy that seat of power again to do to the country what they did then. And God hopes that it would, that having done what they have done, that it will not be without consequence. So the mandate of the government is still there. Carry it out. Thank you.
Thank you very kindly. Our candidate for the position of Education Officer. Today, ladies and gentlemen, you have viewed the entire slate put together by our political leader. It is a slate of candidates that demonstrates the power, potency, and pride of the PNM. From the veteran and venerable Overand Padmore to the youthful and vibrant Ndale Young, this slate contains a mixture of experience and youth, a mixture of deep-seated wisdom and unbridled youthful idealism and enthusiasm. But the leader of this slate is Keith Christopher Rowley. And ladies and gentlemen, This internal election comes at a critical time for the party because we are just at the midterm mark and are now heading to 2 elections, a local government election and a general election. And ladies and gentlemen, you must have strong leadership at the helm of your party to ensure our victory, which is sure, but we want to make assurance doubly sure by ensuring that we have the right people. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the leader that will take us forward in these 2 elections. And to tell you a little more about our political leader, I now invite Chairman of the People's National Movement, Senator Franklin Khan.
Thank you very much, Lady Vice Chairman Camille Robinson-Regis. And you realize she didn't tell me how long to speak, because you still have to listen to me until the 30th of September. Political leader and Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, candidates, members of Parliament, PNM family all. Today, I want to walk you through a fairly short discourse on Dr. Keith Rowley, the transformational leader. When I was asked to do that this morning, it's only then it dawned upon me that he was elected political leader and leader of the opposition in 2010. I was re-elected chairman of the party in 2011, a position that I still hold. So during his 5 years as opposition leader, I was his chairman for 4 years. And during his entire 3 years up until now, as prime minister, I have been his chairman. So the thinking was, if there's anybody to speak about his leadership, his style, his commitment, and his vision, because in this party system, PNM government, the political leader and the chairman are the 2 probably most fundamental positions that has to work together. He's a transformational leader. So we've heard the term transformational leader, we've read about transformation leaders, so I said, let me get a definition that is robust enough about what a transformational leader is. It states it's a style of leadership in which the leader identifies the needed change, creates a vision to guide the change through inspiration, and execute the change with the commitment of members of the group. Let me repeat that. The leader identifies the needed change. He creates the vision to guide that change, and then gets the commitment of the entire group. I've read many books in my long career. And one of the more important books that I've read over the years was a book called Made in Japan by a guy called Akio Morita, who was the founder of the Sony Corporation. Sony was formed after World War II in a bombed shell in Tokyo, Japan. And Sony became very good in making of transistor radios. For those of you who were in the 60s and early 70s, you know what transistor radio is, Mr. Padmo. The first large order Sony got was an order for 100,000 transistor radios in the United States as their first big export title. So Mr. Morita was sent by his other partners to go and sign the deal with a company called Montgomery Ward. That was a big department chain store in America at the time. Everybody at the Sony headquarters in Tokyo was very excited about this deal. When he came back, they had no internet in those days, so they had to wait until he traveled back to Japan. And they asked him, where is the agreement? He said he didn't sign it. They said, are you mad? And here why he didn't sign it. En passant, when he was going to sign it, the Montgomery Ward executives told him, there's only one little issue here, but that's no problem. We will take off the Sony sign and put a Montgomery Ward sign because nobody knows who Sony is. And he said, this Sony name will one day be more internationally known than your company. Today, where's Montgomery Ward? Sony is one of the top electronics firms in the world. I quote that example of visionary leadership because he had a vision for his corporation. And by the same token, our political leader had a vision, has a vision, and is continuing to guide the change that is needed, both at the level of the party and at the level of the country. But let me rewind the tape back to 2015. We had lost an election. 2010, sorry. Yes, 2010. We had lost an election. It's not a nice feeling to lose an election. I was a campaign manager in Moruga at the time. But when you lose an election, you have to understand that something you were doing didn't meet the approval of the majority of the population of Trinidad and Tobago. That's a fact. You could put whatever spin you want on it. If you lose a general election, something your party is doing that didn't meet the approval of the majority of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. He had to dig deep. The first thing he said was a very simple matter. I was chairman at the time. He felt symbolically members of parliament, when you go to the parliament, you represent the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So he took a very bold decision in the PNM at the time to say, probably we should not wear the Balize tie. I was an MP. My proudest moments as an MP was to put on that Balize tie on a Friday and go in the parliament. I know the feeling. But here was a transformational leader coming to us and say, we should rethink that. Because the population has told us there are things we are doing that is probably not connecting to them the right way. I will tell you there was an uproar in General Council. At that meeting, and there was stiff opposition. Dr. Rowley told me, he said, Frankie, put it to the vote. It was the only time I didn't take his instruction. I said, ladies and gentlemen of General Council, go back to your constituency, talk to your executive, talk to the mass membership, think about this thing, because it is transformation and it's coming from the leader, and we will discuss it next General Council. The rest is history. But you have to take brave decision, and that was a brave decision that was taken. He went ahead and said, what it is in the Constitution that is probably not meeting the modern day needs of the society. Because remember, with social media, with everything, the population, as ignorant as some of you may think they are getting more sophisticated. Even the youth, the very youth you say are uneducated, there's a certain level of sophistication in their dialogue. You know? So he said, what it is in the Constitution that probably no longer has the mass appeal of the population of Trinidad and Tobago. One man, one vote. It is obviously democratization of institution. It's a global phenomenon. So nothing is wrong in saying and putting forward to the membership, we have to move to the one man, one vote system. There was opposition initially. We hit the road from constituency to constituency, holding meetings from Moruga to Arima to Sandy Grande to Diego Martin, explaining to the mass membership the need and the rationale and the wisdom of going to the one man, one vote system. Because there was a certain comfort in the delegate system, you know. You control the delegates, you call them up and everything fine when you go to convention. You're sure you're in, you know, the door open. You know who win before the vote take place. It had to change. And we went into convention, a special convention in St. Augustine. We passed that. It was, Dr. Oli himself spoke of that yesterday. The changing in the structure of the screening committee. The screening committee under the old constitution was to assist the political leader in selecting a candidate. And there was one political leader who used to always remind you of that. You are here to assist me. You have no power in your own right. Dr. Rowley changed that. Because every member of the screening committee is an individual. And while the screening committee, if I should tell you all that, we don't vote. We build consensus. But the possibility still exists that one day, if there is a major division, we will have to come with a majority system. It is there in the Constitution. It has never been implemented because this current political leader's position is that if I, as political leader, cannot convince my team as to what my views are, well, I say no more. Then, in an effort to give the membership a chance to assess their leadership before a general election, the old constitution had 4 positions that were voted for 5 years. Chairman, vice chairman, general secretary, and political leader. He changed that to 4 years. And then the other members of the executive were voted in every 2 years instead of every 1. Other minor changes, but still significant. We had a youth officer male and a youth officer female. That is a long time thing, you know. You have a youth officer, you know, gender things. In other words, as if women different to men in terms of the context of youth and wages and what have you. So youth officer, one youth officer, it could be male or it could be female. We went ahead and created a new position called social media officer. Because, especially coming out of the last presidential election in the United States, we know that social media will probably have a bigger impact on the results of our fortune than what is coming from traditional media. So, the vision, taking you forward, defining the change as to what we want, all driven from the top. Even inviting the other competing candidates to come and speak here. It's visionary, you know. I was surprised when I heard it. Good, because I'm not sure if I would have done that, but the boss sees things probably, and there are times we don't see. But ladies and gentlemen, the final point I want to raise with the party is the sod-turning ceremony for Vale House. It took this current leader to produce that vision. Vale House was acquired in 1962. It is as old as Trinidad and Tobago, the independent state of Trinidad and Tobago, by Dr. Williams. We have gone through cycles of boom and bust. We had oil booms, we had gas booms, we had all type of booms. And we would go into Vale House month after month, day after day, the floor rotting, the structure doesn't have the structural integrity to withstand anything. And then the status quo remains. Lovely historical building it is. But somebody had to say, we have to move forward. And today, I really want to compliment, thank, and congratulate Dr. Rowley for that vision of putting a new Vale House headquarters at Tranquility Street. And if I should say so, my proudest moment as PNM chairman was when both of us turned the sod. That day, so my name going down in history now, because that picture will be on the building, I'm sure, and nobody could change that. So the party has been transformed through transformational leadership, through visionary leadership. Because when you are in that mood, you have to confront challenges. You have to confront challenges from the very people you represent. And what he said yesterday, caring is not pandering. Classic statement. You have to show the people you lead what your vision is, where you are going, the method that we're using to take them there. I will talk briefly now about the government. He transformed the party, and he is transforming governance and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We came in trying economic times. Transformational leadership is about doing things differently and understanding what could be the consequences of it. First transformation, we cut down the cabinet from 33 to 23. You save millions of dollars in the process. But not only that, you had a smaller cabinet, so people had bigger portfolios and they can focus on their work. In the UNC, every single member of parliament and every single senator at one point in time had a portfolio. This is the only time that has ever happened in this country. Transformation. I wonder if I should say this one. He took a civil engineer and made him Minister of Finance. And I must say, under the leadership of Dr. Rowley and guided by the Minister of Finance and the Ministry of Finance, we have been putting this economy along the right path. Transformational. Probably the most transformational policy of this administration. And it will impact on us in the 2019 local government election, which is the drive for local government reform. That devolution of authority and devolution of power, it is a fundamental change to the governance structure in Trinidad and Tobago. It will take some time to implement, so don't feel by 2019 everything will be in place, but the whole template will be set. And then with time, probably in about 5 more years or 3 more years, the whole system will be rolled out. But the concept has been there, the legislation will be passed, and we will start to roll out the system for local government reform, resembling the THA model. Revenue Authority, property tax. In my view, in the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industry, critical to the economy. He took the lead. The Venezuelan gas deal is nothing to just blink your eye at, That is transformational. That has the potential of providing a source of gas to Trinidad and Tobago industrial development for the long-term future. And that deal could not have been brokered by the Minister of Energy. That had to come from the top. That had to take prime ministerial intervention, prime ministerial negotiation, and prime ministerial dialogue with the President of Venezuela. Today, when we were at the meeting in Caracas with President Maduro, he lamented the fact that President Chavez came to Trinidad, signed a unitization agreement at the diplomatic center with then Prime Minister Manning, and for 12 years nothing happened. And it took Dr. Rowley's visionary leadership to set that right. Ladies and gentlemen, today that is a done deal, and it is in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago. We have bit the bullet on Petrotrin. I say no more. It is still topical issues, but we have been educating the population as to the rationale for our decision, the reason for our decision, and we move forward on that. So, members of the PNM, in Dr. Rowley, we have a leader with vision, we have a leader with fortitude, and a leader with the will to cause the changes that are necessary for this country. He has led with courage, with steadfastness, and with conviction. He has made many speeches in his career. And every time I hear him talk and I hear him speak, I said, this is the best. And then when I go next week, I have to take back that and say, well, this one's slightly better. And he will continue to set new targets and new heights. He will come like Usain Bolt. He will just keep breaking records. But as profound statements that he has made throughout his career, the one that really touched me this morning was when I opened the Express and I read, I take my job seriously and I care very, very deeply for my country and its people. Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you, political leader. It was a joy and a privilege working with you as political leader and my responsibilities as chairman. I'm handing over to an equally competent person, and I know the relationship will continue between chairman and political leader. So having said that, it is now my distinguished honor and privilege to invite the ongoing and continuing political leader of the People's National Movement and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to address this meeting.
Thank you very much, Party Chairman, the Chairman of the Diego Martin Corporation, members of your corporation, members of the executive of the Diego Martin constituency, East, Northeast, Central, and West. Those of us who are familiar with the Bible would know that it says wise men came from Diego Martin Northeast. Oh, that's not the Bible. That's not the Bible. That's a quotation from Diego Martin West. They come from the east and they end up in Diego Martin West. That is why my colleagues from Diego Martin Northeast, Diego Martin Central are so comfortable in Diego Martin West. But today, we're very happy to be housed, entertained, and catered for here in Diego Martin Central. And I want to thank all members of my cabinet, members of the party executive, and permit me to identify and recognize, pay special recognition to two very significant guests. You see here with us a friend and colleague of mine, Professor Selwyn Kojo, is here with us today. And I did see Harvey Boris somewhere in the back there. Harvey Boris, I love my country. Welcome to Diego Martin. Fellow PNM members, because as you know, this party election is confined to the members of the PNM. If you are just a supporter and never joined the party, you can participate in the election, but of course you can wish us well and give us the support you normally would. And I would like to thank the organizers of the campaign, which we started yesterday in Arima, today in Diego Martin, and I think we go to San Fernando on Saturday in San Fernando. We try to get around the country as much as we can to take the message of the PNM to the PNM people and to the country. I want to explain why I have taken the liberty, some say the risk, of calling together some party members and asking them, those who were not already ambitious and who had not already marked out their area of battle, asking them to take responsibility for our party going forward. And as I offer myself again for continued service, I had the opportunity as leader of this party since 2010, and as a member of this party, well before that time, to have the, what I may call, the expectation that I should know who are the people in the party who can do a good job in these offices. I have no doubt that in Diego Martin West, we could have filled all these positions and Diego Martin West will properly run this party without any of you. But then you started complaining that nobody from Arima, nobody from Tobago, nobody from Sandy Grande, nobody from, but the work is being well done, but they're complaining nobody from Point 14. So that is why, in asking people to come forward and offering themselves, one of the considerations was to try and spread the party's executive across the country. So if you look at the people who came forward this evening, if they did tell you, or you would have heard some of them saying where they were from, you would identify that the footprint of the national executive of the PNM is stamped on Trinidad and Tobago, from Point 14 to Scarborough, from Arima to Diego Martin and so on. And that is where we start. And then today, you would have had the experience that many people haven't had. You would have heard the very young people, another generation of the PNM, listening to them think that they have arrived. And they came in the PNM in 91, and some came. Let me tell all of you something. Except for Mr. Padmo, who came, what year did you join the PNM? What year did you join the PNM? 55, good. I joined the PNM in Tunapuna in 1974. Joined before me? Okay. Tunapuna though? Right. So, if you want to join the PNM well, both of us were recruited by John Scott. So if you want to join the PNM and be recruited by excellence in the PNM, you have to go to Tunapuna and be mentored by John Scott. So the young people who join, what you're seeing here is another generation of this party. I wasn't there in the 50s, in the 60s. I was in school. But when I joined in 74, and I met Patrick Manning and Ian Anthony and people like that, we were that other generation. And I thank God that I stayed the course out of an understanding of my country, and I dare say out of gratitude for those who went before me and laid the foundation for me to become what I've become. And today my children and your children have a future which they never would have had without the PNM. Because public policy matters. Public policy changes lives. It's about change. I have 5 brothers, and every one of them is brighter than I am. And the only reason why I am here today as Prime Minister, and none of the others went to secondary school, is because the PNM came too late for all of them. I am confident, had the PNM come 10 years before with the policies of the PNM, every one of them would have done better than I did, because I wasn't the best. Ladies and gentlemen, change is required if progress is to be had, and that is what the PNM understands. You try to look around at our country today in whatever state, there are some of our own citizens who take pleasure in announcing that our country is a failed state. And whenever I hear that from any of them, the first thing that crosses my mind is, what have you done for this country? What have you contributed to this country? Except bad mouthing it, right? What have you done? And invariably you could point to nothing. We had a government here between 2010 and 2015 that spent the 5 largest budgets in the history of this country. And if I ask you now, just think, what exactly did the UNC contribute to the development of Trinidad and Tobago between 2010 and 2015? No. That is a fact. You can point to nothing except that they were there. And all they were known for is for raping the treasury. Today they have all kinds of advice to give and taking all kinds of position about procurement and this and that and trying to obstruct and undermine the effort. But I tell you something, let me talk people down. The youngsters came here today, Foster Cummins and Parasham, Daniel Duki, and Daniel Young, Laurel Nizama. That's the next generation, and all of them could point to endless periods of progress and items of progress of the party that they are part of. So when we say that we are PNM and proud, we know we have something to be proud about. Have something to be proud about. And when we say we're ready and ready, it means we're ready to continue developing Trinidad and Tobago. And change is what brings that development. Stagnation never does. Fear never does. And self-interest is never worthwhile. Some of you are too young to know when the shop used to close on a Thursday. I know when I used to have to go to the shop at 1 o'clock on Thursday because the doors would be closed for half day on Thursday. But then eventually that too was changed. I know when public servants used to work on a Saturday, because I was a public servant who worked on a Saturday. You had to go to work for half day on Saturday, but the 40-hour work week, and in recognition of the Seventh-day Adventist appeal to the government. Saturday is no longer a working day. It's part of the weekend now. Weekend start quite Wednesday. Just mistake and have a holiday Wednesday or Thursday. Long weekend. When I was a gazetted public servant. I am a gazetted public servant. My name is in the Gazette. I used to have to go to work on a Saturday. And then from Saturday afternoon, you could begin to relax. And then Sunday you spend with the family and friends on the cricket field. And Monday morning you're back at work. So it was. Those days we had discipline and we had some production in this country. But of course, I went to high school. I went to primary school as a colonial. We used to get bun and juice, Queen birthday, because we were colonials. And some people in this country felt that that was a privilege and that was what we were good for. Hewers of wood and carriers of water and probably fight war and kill for other people in other people's wars. But there were others who thought that we too were equal to any other. And Dr. Williams came in 1956 and led us out of that towards independence in 1962. And you heard this evening that independence was not guaranteed. It wasn't a surety. And there are still people in this country under two rum will still be saying, if the colonial master was here, this wouldn't happen and that wouldn't happen. But the PNM had absolute confidence in the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We didn't stop at independence. We went towards republicanism, where we didn't wait on the Queen. We took full responsibility for all that goes on here, for all our people. That is the confidence of the PNM in the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So anything that had to be done in this country, which were required to be done for the people of this country, the PNM was prepared to do it. Sometimes it's done with the stroke of a pen. Sometimes it takes campaigns to educate the population to bring them along. Free secondary education didn't just happen in this country. Access to secondary education in this country was a privilege enjoyed by the few. Go out on the street and ask any child in the university today. Any of our universities, we have 3 of them in this country. Ask them if they know about school fees in school, not university. In school, school fees. In primary school, in secondary school. And it was only those who could have afforded those fees could have got into those doors. We've changed this country completely by a policy of free secondary education. And you would think that that policy came unobstructed. There were those who weren't happy about it. Because whatever you do, whatever the policy, there will always be a cohort of people for one reason or the other who would not agree, either because they would think they can do better or they think that the policy is bad. So don't you expect that there's any act of policy that will be put in this country that will just be accepted by all and say, okay, hail friends, well met. No, you have to usually fight for the space, you have to defend that policy, and in the end, who want with you usually come along. When some things that we consider simple. How many of you knew about the time when if a young lady got pregnant in this country, she was put out of the home onto the street? And worse, If you were a teacher in a school, you're gone, you lost your work. And if you were a child born out of wedlock, you had no status and no station. How many of you take the absence of all of that for granted? Go and look and see the PNM policies that change those things. I know what I'm talking about, you know. My grandmother raised 4 women, you know, in our house with my grandfather. My grandfather looking after them because their family put them out because they got pregnant. I have 2 daughters today. You will cry shame on me if I do that, because the country has changed, our society has changed, and changed for the better. That's what we are. The Unit Trust Corporation, one of our proud financial institutions in this country, took the PNM to do it. But remind you, those of you who are too young to know, when the PNM raised that as an act policy to be executed, there were those in this country from the privileged class who felt that you should not do that, and the reason was that the government will use people's money to control shares of companies that they control, and a unit trust was a threat to the hegemony. You know that? They objected to it. It wasn't just accepted as a good idea. Today there are over 600,000 accounts at the UTC, most of them from the man in the street, and they all see the unit trust as the place to put their little nest egg with the confidence. And if they are in this country, there's a failing of institutions. One that is not failing and is held in very high esteem in this country is the Unit Trust Corporation, a PNM institution. There are many people in this country who used to work hard. Nowadays, hard work is a bad phrase in this country. When people used to work hard, many of them, at the end of their days, they had nothing to look forward to because there was no provision made for them. The PNM created and put in place the National Insurance Board to ensure that while you're working under law, you're forced to contribute and your employer is forced to contribute. And if you are ill or you got pregnant and you are retired, there is something there to take you out of penury. This is what we have done in this country, and on every occasion, there was objection to it from some quarter. We were building a highway in Tobago, the Claude Noel Highway. It cost us $44 million in wasted money because the first contractor couldn't proceed. Because where he wanted to proceed, people were encouraged to lie down in front of the bulldozer and stop the project. And we had to start over, pay off the first contractor and start over. Today, the Claude Noel Highway is probably the only decent road in Tobago. We need to build some more. We are currently in the, on the drawing board to build a bypass road around Scarborough. But I tell you this so you can understand, when the PNM is being opposed on policy matters, usually, invariably, it is because we are doing it because it has been analyzed, it is the best for the country, and we stand with the rectitude of our cause. And usually, the rest of the country comes along in the end. We are building a highway to San Fernando. Remember Hulsi? Highway to link Port of Spain to San Fernando in Guayama. Highway stop because Hulsi sit down in the road. How many of you today will accept that there isn't that highway to San Fernando? We are going to build we are building a highway to link the people of Sangre Grande, to bring them into the national economy, to bring to them what the rest of the country has to offer and what the rest of us has. Privileged few. Talking about Guti Pass there last night, and you got to wait and see how much cars pass overhead. And they blocked it for the entire dry season. We lost the whole dry season, paying contractors millions for nothing, and go to the Privy Council and take the white man, the Englishman, to tell us, go ahead and build your road. We who created in this country a republic had to go to England to get permission to build a road in Trinidad and Tobago. But let me tell you all something. 2019, there are two things that are going before the parliament. And it's go to a vote, and it will be a free vote. Last time we were in parliament on the Commissioner of Police, I gave my team a free vote on the election of a former cabinet minister from another party for the post of Commissioner of Police, because I genuinely believe that Gary Griffith was the best person for the job. So the offer of a free vote, a conscience vote, It's nothing new to us. We set the stage for that. One, we're going to the parliament by way of motion to ask the people's representatives who represent people in this country, 99% of them who can't set foot in the Privy Council. A motion is going to go to the parliament at the appropriate time in 2019, asking the parliamentarians who are the people's representatives to vote in support of the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final court of appeal. I have no way of knowing how that vote will end, but I give you the assurance that every PNM member in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago will vote in support of making the Caribbean Court of Justice our final court of appeal. Where we are here today in Diamond Vale, housing was the #1 need and still is of large numbers of people in this country. It took the PNM to build this housing area and house tens of thousands of people. All over the country, I can point to housing from Charlottesville in Tobago to Point Fortin, to San Fernando, to Arima, all over this country, public sector housing, which is only done when the People's National Movement is in office, because we have a commitment to improving the quality of life of our citizens, and there can be no better contribution to an improvement in the quality of life than to removing it from a hovel. Some of those places that some of our people lived in. Today, some of our people take it for granted and convert some of our public sector housing into dens of iniquity. But yesterday, Mr. Padboss spoke in Arima, and he made the important observation that the development of the country has to be a contract between the government and the people. And if the government does its part and the people doesn't do their part, if there's no individual responsibility, if there's no familial responsibility, if there's no community responsibility, no government could bring about the development that the country deserves and that the country is after. So we build houses of all types, and then 6 weeks after you're hearing the same misconduct that was taking place in certain kinds of in housing taking place in the multi-million-dollar units. So therefore it's not money, it's attitude, it's responsibility. And the people of this country need to be called to order, to take account of what is happening and take responsibility, if not for themselves, but for the children and the grandchildren. And the PNM is confident that as long as we hold people responsible, we give them opportunity to participate in the development program and the development process, Trinidad and Tobago will keep going from strength to strength. That's our confidence. We are going to build the highways. I see today in the papers that there's to be some obstruction to the overpass in Curepe because some families are holding it out that they're being oppressed because there's land acquisition to take place and that we are using the Land Acquisition Act. Well, I want to say something to those people, that the government of Trinidad and Tobago will oppress no one with respect to acquiring their property for public development. And when you see the pictures of the old people, I think one is 72 and one is 76, it tugs at your heartstring that they have to move. But in cooperation with the government, I'm sure that that move could be made acceptable. But the argument in the story is that we are using the acquisition clauses of the law and not using private treaty. Private treaty means that somebody tells somebody that this property is worth $100 million. One gentleman blocked a development out in the east. He had a bar or something. And he took that matter to the court, saying that they should not, was the highway going past Arima out there? Kumuto. He took the matter to the court saying that he ought to be paid his price and they ought not to use the law. And the law is based on valuation. It's not based on any whim and fancy of the minister or the government. It is based on the valuation of the property. And the government allows outside valuer to get involved in the process. We have the government valuer, which is usually the lower one, except when Munlal is minister. And we have private valuers involved in the process. And nobody is going to lose their property by virtue of undervaluing it and oppressing them. But you see, in the last government, they used private treaty and they raped the country. Buy all kinds of land that nobody else will buy, where only bull grass will grow, that has no value in the order of the million, and pay millions and millions and millions for it. The land acquisition on the highway to San Fernando was estimated to Point 14, was estimated at $475 million in the program. When we came into office 1 year later, the budget was $800 million. And when we asked them, why is this budget jumping up by almost 100%? Jack Warner told us, he was Minister of Works at the time, that the price of land gone up. Private treaty. And they made millionaires of people with property they couldn't sell. And you have Christine Moore in Tobago, every time a pin drop in Trinidad, she has something to say. What she's not telling you, that she became a multimillionaire in that scandal of paying for land by private treaty. And all this government is doing, I was the minister that took to the parliament the modernized land acquisition, where valuation is the heart of it. You have to be paid 60% immediately, and you pay the other 40% at the completion of the assessment of the value. And upon publication of the section 4, I think it is, once you publish it, the requisite section, the government is allowed to go onto the land. If there are people involved with houses, then they are required to remove themselves, and with the assistance of the government if it's available. But the law is there. Why are we being accused of oppression if we are following the law? It is because the last government made corruption the law, and people's expectation is that corruption in land acquisition ought to continue. That's what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. And if you try to change it, you've been put across as not caring. The law in the parliament, when the law was passed, all the ingredients of caring would have gone into that law. And what we are required to do is, by our oath of office, is to operate the law without malice, without favor, without ill will. So read in the next column and see what's going to happen. Maybe they'll go to the Privy Council and ask them for permission to build the overpass in Chiriat. But I'll tell you something else too. I also look in the newspaper and I see that the government, all institutions are failing. And of course, that involves the government. Okay, that is true. We have some serious failures in our institutions. But if it is that all institutions are failing, and apparently there were only 2 pluses, one plus was the president. I only ask one little question. Who appointed the president? The government gets no credit for making an outstanding selection for the presidency in Trinidad and Tobago. Because I keep saying that one of the main responsibilities of the government or of any manager or of any leader is the selection of people for the jobs that have to be done. Today, you'd have seen our slate, and I need not go over the CVs for you. You would have seen that people who were selected, people who qualify with a good chance of success for the jobs in front of them. When this government was required to choose a president for the Republic, we took very great care in looking at our national population and selecting a citizen in whom we all should be, and I dare say, in whom we are all proud. So, for 7 years, I think it is, for 7 years, or was it 5 years? 5 years? For 5 years, 12 and 5, no, 6 years, we had no commissioner of police in this country. We had no commissioner of police. There was a government in office that fired the last commissioner of police and was quite happy to run the country awash with crime and criminality, worthlessness take over the police service, crime detection at an all-time low. But they were happy to have no commissioner of police. Because that was the only government that felt you could have fought a war against crime without generals and field marshals. The appointment of a commissioner of police was one of the major items that this government undertook in our manifesto in coming into office. And we had to jump through hoops of fire to get it done. And I dare say today, if there is satisfaction in the selection of a commissioner of police and the work that the police is doing now, this government claims credit for that. And as for me, when I don't personalize this job, some people think that I don't care. It is because I care so much why I don't make it personal. If this job was personal, many people who are today in my cabinet would not be there. Many people who have appointments abroad will not be there. But I have never personalized this assignment of leader of the PNM. I am the leader of the People's National Movement. I am not the leader of my friends and Maria and Margaret and Diego Martin West. I am the leader of the People's National Movement. And whatever they may think of me, the one thing that they will know of me is that as PNM leader, I am your leader. And outside of the PNM, I look at the broader canvas of the national society. I can tell you, I worked in the parliament since 1987 January. And I made friends on the other side of the floor in the parliament. There was a time in the parliament after a budget debate, government and opposition. I was in the opposition after the budget debate. We leave and go to Bretton Hall and sit down and drink all night because the budget passed. Government and some members of the opposition. Today I can count among the people I respect very highly in this country, having worked with them. Anthony Smart, chairman of the FCB. He's there, we met him there and we left him there because he was a good citizen doing a good job at FCB. Selby Wilson, I meet him on the golf course, we can play a game of golf together and we can laugh and talk together. That is what the PNM puts up as leadership. Look today, the chairman of the NCC was a former government minister because we felt that he was the best person for the job. The chairman of NP is a former UNC member of parliament appointed under my stewardship. And that is how we run this country. There's no other leader, no other political party in Trinidad and Tobago that could make that claim, that we see country first. We see country first. I can tell you that the people of this country have to take responsibility for the outcome. Because if you choose leaders that are not committed to the country's future, and it's all about them and their future and their office, then you are responsible for the outcome. I see a lot of people in the political arena today who have serious questions to answer with respect to their conduct when they had the opportunity to run this country. And they are behaving as though they have nothing to care for. And they only wait until the next election to get back into parliament. As far as I'm concerned, if such persons make their way back into the parliament, then you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, you take what you get. Because you can't say you didn't know. Can't say you didn't know. But there's something else that's going to go to the parliament during 2019. And it's this. You know, I can go outside and buy a pack of cigarettes if I'm stupid now and smoke it. It'll poison me. But there's no law against it. The government will collect the tax and I can stupidly poison myself. I can go out there and drink as much rum as I like. The government will collect the tax, and as my father said, the more you drink it, the more they make it. But we in this country at this time have a problem. Our jails are full of young people, largely young men of our societies, because they smoke a marijuana cigarette. Many of them might have smoked too, but all of them would have had their lives somehow negatively affected by having smoked a marijuana cigarette, because the law in this country makes the smoking of a marijuana cigarette a criminal offense. The minute you could drink as much rum as you want, drunk and drive and kill people in the road if you wish, you don't get charged for criminality for having drunk the alcohol. You could smoke as much cigarette, poison people with secondhand smoke, you don't get charged for being a criminal. But the marijuana smoking in the upper echelons of society, where a serious number of acres of marijuana is burnt, very few of them end up in the jail. If they even get charged, it's very unlikely that they end up in the jail. But the state of our society and our jurisprudence and the unfortunate, I should say the gift, for those who, you come from Laventille, from Enterprise, from Kunupia, marijuana, you are going to jail. Many of them can't raise bail, so they rot inside the jail. All of them have to find lawyers, and that's another problem. Because you see, when people without money end up in jail, especially young people who treasure their freedom, and they fill up the jails, what you don't know is that they also have to commit crime to pay the lawyers. And many of the lawyers collect the money in cash, knowing very well where the money came from. And there are many people in this country who had guns put to their head and had the cash taken away because somebody had to pay a lawyer who will collect the cash in a brown bag and don't blink an eyelid and possibly smoking marijuana too. That is a matter of social justice that needs to be addressed. And it is my responsibility as leader of this country to have this matter properly examined. And I'm in discussion with the Attorney General to determine how we treat with this problem, so that that societal destruction, that injustice, like the other changes that we have made along the way, that in this time and the times ahead, that we could deal with that matter, so that in a later period, we could look back at this time and say this was the time when we dealt with that problem, because it is a problem that can only get worse. As I examine this matter in recent times, I have met fathers who have jobs, who have lost their jobs because they smoked a marijuana cigarette and they're in jail. The children are unattended and unsupported. I am sure that was not the intention of the law. I'm sure it wasn't. But of course, it has to be managed. Because if it is that there are detrimental and deleterious effects, the same way with alcohol and cigarettes, I don't buy it for 1 minute that there aren't deleterious effects from marijuana smoking. But the management of the offense has created its own problem, and this country must now address it. And that is a matter for 2019, and that is a matter that our prisons. We in the PNM are the only political party that has ever come up with answers and come to fix problems that the people of Trinidad and Tobago have. They're the only one. I look in the papers today and I see that one of the major failings that's going to cause this government to lose the next election is because we didn't provide a sea bridge to Tobago. I mean, some people, I met a man in Tobago last week, 2 weeks ago, who buttonholed me to tell me the problem is we had to build a bridge from Togo to Tobago. You know? And if the government is not prepared to build a bridge from Togo to Tobago, we don't like Tobagonians. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no bridge in the world, nowhere in the world of that nature. There are long bridges in the world. In China, I drove on a bridge that was about 35 miles or 40 miles long, a bridge. But it's in shallow water. So they keep putting props to hold the bridge along the way in shallow water. You have 2,000 feet of water between Tokyo and Scarborough. As a matter of fact, if you do manage to build that bridge, the paint alone on that bridge is as big as the national budget. Because if you build out of steel, you're going to have to paint it every day. Otherwise, it will rust and disappear. And of course, there's nowhere in the world where any such bridge or similar bridge is built to link 1 million people with 65,000 people. Nowhere in the world. Any bridge of that kind of world-class bridge, it normally links a few million people with another few million people, and every day 500,000 cars pass on the road, and you toll it, and you make money to pay for the bridge. That's how it goes. But that's not the story. The story is the very people who are holding this government responsible for not having a bridge, a sea bridge, meaning the boats at Tobago, are the ones who ran the 2 used boats to the ground, and are the ones who encourage the corrupt practice in the port. This government has taken corrective action. We have put substitutes in place in the interim. And last week, Thursday, we placed the order for 2 brand new ferries that will one day be here to put an end to that system once and for all. It's the only way it could have been done. And we didn't just place the order. We went to the Australians for help. And the Australians gave us help in terms of financing to pay for it. What else did the people of Trinidad and Tobago want the government to do? I couldn't go into Hilo and buy 2 boats. I couldn't go to that big store down in Union Road in Stanford and buy 2 boats. If we couldn't even find used boats to lease. We found one that was not exactly what we were looking for, but it was better than what we had, and we bought it. And every single day, they're behaving as though the Garland Passage is an abomination. It is a vessel that gets to Tobago in 4.5 days, 4.5 hours. 4.5 days, yeah. My grandmother used to do that. You see, those of you who came in recent times, you wouldn't have known about Belize and Barima. You wouldn't have known about the city of Port of Spain. Well, I can't forget the city of Port of Spain. I going to school in Scarborough, leaving Concordia and see city of Port of Spain coming in on the horizon. Go to school and spend the whole day. When I come back to Scarborough, city ain't coming yet. And reach yet. And when city reach, talk about bug. Talk about bug. Anytime you travel on the city of Port of Spain, all grip had to stay outside in the sun. And little children like me used to have to go through every piece of clothes to kill bug in. You laugh at that? And in those days, we were peaceful and calm in Tobago. Right? Then we had the Trinidad and Tobago. Right? Then we had the last 2, Scarlet Ibis and Bird of Paradise. And then we had the Panorama. And now we are going to have 2 new vessels. And they are due here. The order was given last week, so we booked our spot in the line. And if we didn't place the order before the end of this month, we couldn't have got those boats for another year beyond the date of delivery. So 2021, 22. So we had to move fast to get the slots in the line if we were going to buy new boats. Now we've done that. And for that, there are those who believe that the government should be pilloried. We don't take that to put us off track. We do what has to be done. And we've done that with all the other things we've done to improve the quality of life for the people of Trinidad and Tobago and to address the problems as they come forward. As I speak to you now, we are many years late, and billions of dollars poorer because we did not address the issue at Petrotrin. There are those who say, leave it just so. Leave it so. There are those who will say, tinker with this edge and tinker with that edge. That will not change it. Those who understand what the wider national interest requires know that we have to do what we have to do. And of course, you please the population, not by pandering to their whims and their wants, by ensuring that you take care of their needs. And that is what caring is about. That's what caring is about. It is easy to be irresponsible, to be popular. It is harder to face the slings and arrows, to be sensible if you believe in the rectitude of your cause and your policy. That has been the story of the PNM. That has been the story of the PNM. There are those in this country who are encouraging us to get involved in Venezuela's business at the behest of others. In keeping with Trinidad and Tobago's national policy and in keeping with PNM's policy, we stood fast in our principle of non-interference and non-intervention while being a good neighbor in every way that we can. Today, well, I won't tell you the details, but Minister Moses and myself and Minister Young, we were not surprised when we saw yesterday in the international news that United States officials have told the international news that United States military officials had received overtures from Venezuelan military officials in the planning of a coup against the president of Venezuela. That doesn't surprise the government of Trinidad and Tobago one bit, and you should know why. Ladies and gentlemen, as we take this responsibility for the next executive of the PNM, we take responsibility for our country in a particularly difficult time. And if it is that to be popular is to do right, we will be popular at the end of the day. Sometimes it takes a while. It takes a while for the blurred vision to become clear. It takes a while for the pain to ease. It takes a while for the trust to develop. Today, we say to the national population, if there are problems in this country which the PNM cannot solve, there's no other political entity that would even embark upon solving those problems. I am proud to be able to present to you the candidates I presented today, because I have worked with all of them, and I can tell you they are AA candidates. They have the right attitude, and they have tremendous ability. And on that basis, if not that basis alone, I ask you to vote for them resoundingly and put a new executive in place and let this PNM go from strength to strength and take Trinidad and Tobago from strength to strength with boundless faith in our destiny. I thank you for your support, and I thank you for coming.
Thank you very kindly, political leader. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll just ask the candidates to come forward. Political leader, Dr. Keith Rowley. Chairman, Mr. Colum Imbert. Vice Chairman, Mr. Robert LeHunt. General Secretary, Mr. Foster Cummings. Assistant General Secretary, Mr. Daniel Duki. Treasurer, Mr. Howard Chinley. Education Officer, Mr. Overrun Padmore. Public Relations Officer, Mrs. Laurel Islama Leasing. Social Media Officer, Mr. Avinash Singh. Labor Relations Officer, Mrs. Jennifer Batiste Primus. Elections Officer, Mr. Indar Parasram. Field Officer, Mr. Abden Mason. Welfare Officer, Mrs. Jocelyn Bodden, who is out of the country. Youth Officer, Mr. Ndale Young. And Operations Officer, Ms. Irene Hines. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your slate of candidates. The Red Rowley slate. Real experience and dependable. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the slate that will take our party forward and that will take Trinidad and Tobago forward for the next 4 years. Vote resoundingly, ladies and gentlemen, for the red Rowley slate. This is the slate that will do what is best for your party and for Trinidad and Tobago through the PNM. Ladies and gentlemen, our next set of meetings will be in San Fernando, Tunapuna, La Joqueta, and Point Fortin, and we will let you know when and where. Thank you very much for being here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for supporting this slate, and we look forward to ensuring that we work in the interest of the PNM and in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very kindly. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. Thank you. God bless.